Democrats and the media have been thrilled over what the mayor of Minneapolis said in the aftermath of the Annunciation Catholic Church shooting. On CNN, Dana Bash said that his comments about forgetting thoughts and prayers sent shivers and chills up her spine.
Mayor said thoughts and prayers just aren't enough here right now because these kids were actually praying.
Yeah, I do want to listen to that because that sent chills up my spine, I'm sure everybody's spine, when they heard the mayor say that. Let's listen to that moment. I mean, he's expressing something that I know you feel and most people feel, which is a combination of sadness but raw rage. Forget about thoughts and prayers. These kids were literally praying when they were murdered through a church window.
Like I said in my videos yesterday, you can have it both ways. You can do both things. When you send thoughts and prayers, you are sending condolences, you are appealing to a higher power, but that doesn't mean that we don't take any action in our day-to-day lives. Of course, a lot of action can be taken, and we'll talk about that later in the video, about more security, about funding mental health resources, about improving our culture. You can have it both ways. You can multitask. We're capable of chewing gum and walking at the same time. Yet, for whatever reason, the Democrats, the left, they want to make it a point to say, you can't say thoughts and prayers. It's a waste of time. And they criticize anyone who even says that. Well, Scott Jennings wasn't having this enough. And fortunately for CNN, at least they have one voice of reason on their network. His thoughts and insights on this were so profound that no one on Abby Phillips' panel really knew how to respond.
I actually had a negative reaction to the mayor's statements today. I think it's wrong, frankly, to vilify or attack people of faith. You said thoughts and prayers ring hollow. I think thoughts and prayers are the most solid on days of tragedy for people who live their faith every day. And I think on a day like today, particularly in a church community, there are probably people praying harder for comfort today than they have ever prayed in their life. And so I think, and I've heard others on the left today go down this line of attack against people of faith, sort of denigrating the idea that they might want to pray today. And so I think his statements were misguided. The thing that struck me today, Abby, truthfully, when I was watching this unfold, was that the two little ones that died were 8 and 10. I have 7 and 9. Those are my two youngest. They turn 8 and 10 in a few days. And we could probably sit here and argue out all the issues of faith and transgenderism and all the other things that have been raised today, but it strikes me that none of us ever want to know the terror and the absolute empty hole that will never be filled that those parents of the 8 and 10-year-old are going to feel. And I just thought maybe tonight the most useful thing any of us could do would take 10 seconds and just sit quietly and be still and be quiet and think about those families, because they are never going to be the same, no matter what we say.
I don't know how he does it, but somehow Scott Jennings always knows how to hit every single note just right, just pitch perfect. Well, this isn't just going viral. This isn't just being discussed by commentators on TV. This is even in politics itself. Obviously, it was said by a politician, the mayor of Minneapolis, but Jen Psaki, the former press secretary for Joe Biden, started talking about this and was denigrating thoughts and prayers. Well, fortunately, we have an administration that isn't afraid of faith. And J.D. Vance, he was actually out today. He was giving a speech and he led the entire crowd in prayer. I thought this was a powerful moment.
You are the praying type. I would ask you to join me in prayer. I'm just going to say a prayer for the two little kids who lost their lives yesterday. And this is a prayer we say a lot in my church, and I've always found it very meaningful. It's very short. But eternal rest grant unto them, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon them. May the souls of all the faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace. Amen. Thank you all.
So it wasn't just this appearance. J.D. Vance has been very busy and he's been all over the place. One of the appearances he made was on Fox News, and he basically made the same point that I've been hammering away since yesterday, that this is not a binary choice. It's not as if you say thoughts and prayers, you can't take action to make sure this sort of violence doesn't happen again.
Not immediately make it about politics. And my final point on this is when I see far left politicians say, how dare you offer thoughts and prayers, you need action. I don't care about your prayers. I care about what you're going to do to prevent this from happening. Why does it have to be one or the other? Why can't you pray for the speedy recovery of these kids who literally just got shot yesterday, while at the same time committing to making sure this doesn't happen again, or that it happens as infrequently as possible? I don't think there's anything inconsistent about saying a prayer to God for these innocent, beautiful kids, while also thinking constructively about how we're going to prevent this from happening the next time. You can do both of those things. You can hold a thought, both of those thoughts in your head at the same time. And Will, if you are a politician or you're a media commentator and two beautiful babies just got murdered while praying, and your politics force you to contemn prayer in response to it, you ought to get new politics, because something very wrong has gone on inside your soul.
Predictably, the left has already politicized this. Immediately in the aftermath, we had people like Amy Klobuchar and Chuck Schumer coming out and talking about gun control. They do it after every mass shooting. Some people were calling for more background checks and red flag laws, which, by the way, this guy, he passed the background check. They have background checks in Minnesota. They also have red flag laws, and he didn't trigger any of them. So it's not as if more gun control would have prevented all of this. He bought his gun legally. It's not as if he got it on the black market. Now, obviously, something has changed. There has been more violence and more school shootings over the last few years and unfortunately decades. But it's not as if guns are new to America. Guns have always been part of America's DNA. They've been here since our country's founding. So it really raises the question, what's causing all of this? Well, if guns have always been here, it's clearly not the guns. They've always been part of the equation. Obviously, there must be some other root cause. Well, going back to Scott Jennings on CNN, he actually started talking about the root cause of all of this, and he started talking about, hey, maybe the trans issue is a thing. Maybe we should take a look at how these sort of chemical imbalances and trying to change someone's hormones can also change the way they think and their state of mind. This obviously was very contentious, but as always, Scott Jennings made a few great points.
Well, I think the first question you have to ask is, why did it happen? I don't think it happened because of guns. I think it happened because somebody who was clearly suffering from severe mental illness
had access to weapons that would allow them to carry out a terrible shooting.
And the mental illness was encouraged.
But Scott, what about people who don't have mental illness?
I don't think we can tiptoe around this issue. And when you look at the messages that were written in some of the materials and on the weapons that we've seen, I mean, this person obviously was in a dark place.
Obviously.
And I want to know,
obviously.
I'm not sure the government is in that person's life enough to know, but his parents are.
But what
and his
about,
family is.
Scott, what about people who don't have mental illness? We have a huge gun violence issue here in the United States. We lead in gun violence.
But the issue today is quite obviously mental illness. And
if you take away the mental illness, it still leads to guns.
My reply to that guy there is, it comes down to our culture. We have one party, we have one half of the nation who, for example, believes that abortion is healthcare. They believe that abortion, killing your baby, is a woman's right. If you promote that, if you make that mainstream and you accept that as a philosophy, then you're automatically devaluing human life. If you say that human life doesn't begin at conception, if you say that human life begins and ends wherever you want it to, wherever it is in the womb, you do devalue life. And I believe that sort of thinking that permeates the culture, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. We've definitely encouraged this as a society where life just unfortunately isn't valued like it should be. Well, in this particular case, we do know that Catholic leaders in Minnesota warned, they pleaded with Governor Walz to do something about this. According to the Daily Wire, Minnesota Catholic school leader warned Tim Walz of critical school safety threats. He did absolutely nothing. So they have this program. It's called the Safe Schools Program, and its allotted budget each year is $50 million. They wrote this letter and reminded Walz that Minnesota has 72,000 students enrolled in independent Catholic, Jewish, Christian, and Muslim non-public schools. The latest school shooting at a non-public Christian school in Tennessee sadly confirms what we already know. Our schools are under attack. In Minnesota, non-public schools, particularly our Jewish and Muslim schools, have experienced increased levels of threats, all of which we must take very seriously. So at the time they wrote this letter, the state legislature in Minnesota was passing this budget recommendation of $50 million to create the Building and Cybersecurity Grant Program, and this would go to all public schools in Minnesota. Well, in this letter, they were pleading with Walz to work directly with the legislature to amend this, to basically make sure that it covers all schools, whether it's public or private. So if you take a look at the last paragraph here, this is what they wrote. An attack on any school, whether it is a public, non-public, charter, or another school site, cannot be tolerated or allowed to happen in Minnesota. We want to make sure Minnesota is doing everything it can to ensure that all of our students are safe and secure. We ask you to include $50 million in the final education finance bill and allow non-public schools to apply for funding. By the way, Minnesota, they had no budget issues that year. They, in fact, had an $18 billion budget surplus in 2023-2024 when this was considered, when it was passed, and it was not funded for non-private schools. So when you take a look at a situation like this, to me, it is very clear that prevention can come in all shapes and forms. You could have armed security at school. By the way, they don't have to be visible. It doesn't need to look like a war zone. You don't want to scare the kids, but you could have someone, some staged area of the school where an officer or a volunteer who obviously passes a background check, maybe a retired officer or a vet, is present to make sure that kids in their community are safe. Maybe there are metal detectors and there are ways to hide it so it doesn't look like you're going through TSA at the airport. There are so many different strategies that you can use. Bulletproof windows. The list goes on and on and on. The Democrats would have you believe that prevention is just about taking guns away and restricting access to guns. Like I said earlier, though, Minnesota already has strict background checks. They already have red flag laws. This guy, by all accounts, as far as we know, got his gun legally. He did not set off any red flags. He passed the background check. So I don't know what more the Democrats want here. Governor Walz was already warned, nothing happened, and unfortunately, this tragedy happened yesterday. As always, though, all of this is just my analysis and commentary. This is what's happening in the world of politics from my point of view, and I would love to hear from you. If you had to pinpoint just one realistic, practical way to reduce the violence that is happening around the country, what would it be? What would you do if you could wave a magic wand and make all of this disappear? Let me know your strategies, your insights down in the comments below. If you haven't already, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask for, but it really does help me reach more viewers like you in the algorithm. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.